it's a small world. So you will always come across somebody that you have, you've met through class or otherwhere, and that becomes a future networking opportunity. The classrooms are, because by nature, just the cohort students for the most part, and you're moving through the program together, so that you get that personal one-on-one experience with the professors, such as Eric. The material is really what you're going to be doing in the profession. It's the real world stuff. And I kind of think it's quirky that we say real world, because we don't use textbooks in the same traditional sense. We go to the primary source. So when you're in class, the primary source are going to be the codes and regulations. And so you're going to be doing directly that, or case adjudications, or anything regarding the tax laws that you'll be studying for the particular course subjects. The professionals that you're teaching, or the full-time faculty that are teaching, are professionals from the industry, such as Eric, who introduced himself and said he had 25 years of experience working in the profession. That comes into the classroom, and that experience brings it into the classroom. So just understanding what the code or regulation is one thing, but how do you apply it? How do you put it into practice? And so that is our goal, is to teach you how you put these codes and regulations into practice and to solve real world problems. If you've been to our campus or know the general vicinity of our campus, we are kind of like in the center of the financial district. We have major accounting firms, all of the big four surround us. Deloitte is across the street, EY and KPMG are just like a block away. PwC is a little bit further. It's like maybe a 10-minute walk towards the Embarcadero. So, and then we have a lot of other sized firms that just kind of wrap us, and they come and recruit from us, because a lot of them are also graduates of our program. And so they come back and they recruit from us. You're going to have a lot of networking opportunities through this program. And so you should seize those opportunities as you meet people, because you never know where your next career opportunity might be and where this will lead you. So as I said, the faculty have that experience that they're bringing in. We're ranked, and that's important too, because there's a lot of organizations out there that say, well, we're the premier, we do the best, we deliver the best curriculum, but why or how? Who says that? Well, there are a couple of models here, or representations of things that we really kind of care about. One is the Washington Monthly recognition. This is our 4th year of being recognized as the #1 school for adult learners. Why does that matter to you? Well, you're adult learners. By the definition of adult learners, you come in with a lot of other experience. This is not your first foray into college because you have an undergraduate degree, but you're also bringing a lot of either experience in the field, or you might have family obligations and other things that are competing with your time and energy that you devote to studying. And we understand that. And we try to meet you where you're at in order to make sure that you have the content and the materials to be successful. Another thing is that as an institution who focuses on adult learning, that has been our lifelong mission. Over almost 120 years ago, that was the founding mission and the value system of the university at that point in time. And that has stayed true 120 years later. The other thing that we're really proud of is our recognition by Top in Tax, or by Tax Talent as Top in Tax. Say that really fast a couple of times. That is a recognition that we're ranked as the top 5 in the field of tax, meaning that when they surveyed like over 600 recruiters and HR people in the accounting profession, what they said was this Golden Gate University is one of the top 5 schools that we recruit from, or that we find that we have great employees who come from those programs. So that's important, because at the end of the day, you want to get hired. And if you know that people are looking at Golden Gate University, you're more likely to be drawn to us. As well as we offer a variety of different tax courses. You're going to go, when we go through this, we're going to see all of the courses that you're going to be taking, but you do get an option to do some electives. And those electives can come from international tax, estate and planning, state and local tax, There's a variety of different genre of topics that we cover in our elective options. Okay, so here's some highlights on the program. And I'm moving a little bit fast because I feel like we lost some time. So sorry if I'm moving real fast. We're going to give you a recording of this so you can go back and review it. But if I don't cover something, like I said earlier, as well as you want more information about it, we can do a Q&A at the very end. We will be doing this program web conferencing like we are doing today. Initially, we said we're going to give students an option to attend in person on campus and then or web conferencing. Well, that option now has been just, one option is we're going to do web conferencing because the program is going to start late July, and we know that our campus will not be open. We're still sheltered in place. We don't know, and we can't predict what the local community, the local city municipality will declare after Sunday, actually, because that's when the current shelter in place is expires. We don't know, and we don't know if students are going to want to come back to the campus, even if we're able to, because there has to be other safeguards in place to protect you and to protect our faculty. So we're not going to be occupying the campus this summer, which summer term started in May and it will go until the end of August. We haven't made a determination about fall, but so definitely the first term will be of the cohort program will be remote like we're doing today. The second term likely will be remote. It could change. We just, again, don't have that crystal ball. We can't figure that out yet, but we'll keep you informed as we move along. The program is a 9-month program from start to finish, 30 units. The degree is 30 graduate units. You will be doing the first 2 terms, and we're going to see this a little bit more closely, are 9 weeks. And in those 9 weeks, you're going to be doing 9 units. Now that's pretty intense because the program, and I hadn't said this yet, so I'm going to do it, drum roll, law-based. So it is law-based. What does that mean? Well, you're going to be reading a lot of legal terminology, a lot of legal documents. The IRS codes and regulation is a legal document, right? It is published by the IRS, or any adjudications that come through the court systems are done in legal terminology. So these are law-based programs. So it's really imperative that you understand that because that's a whole different kind of language and skill set that students have to adapt to from more traditional reading and curriculum. So you will be getting a lot of intensity in the first 2 terms, definitely. You're going to be doing 9 units. That's a lot for graduate programs. Most students will do 9 units in 15 weeks, which is our full semester term. So now we're doing 9 units in, almost not quite half, a little over half of the time. So it's a lot. It's consolidated. It moves fast. Another thing that we've done is we're always in tune with what's happening in the industry. When the new
Rocco, sorry to interrupt. We've got one person logged in twice, so you got a little echo. It's Anna Karen Chico. Can you just mute? And then that'll be a
okay. Thank you.
Mute everyone.
Okay.
As host, you guys should have the ability to
I think Cindy
mute.
Yes.
There you go.
Let me check
Perfect.
that out.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. So we stay in tune with what's happening in the industry. And I know Eric can talk about this maybe a little bit later, but when the whole tax codes and regulations had to change in December 2017 with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, there was a lot of overhaul in some of our classes. I know one of his classes that he teaches had a lot of significant changes. So whenever there's changes, we're constantly updating it so that you get the most current information. What we've also learned from the industry and our employer partners is that analytics plays an important role in the future of tax and how work is done and how information is disseminated, determined, and how it's applied. So we have incorporated one analytics class as a part of the program now. So this will be new, and you'll be one of the first groups to go through it. So this will be a great opportunity to get it firsthand from somebody who does analytics in a tax profession. Couple of important dates. The 23rd and the 24th will be our virtual orientation. We'll get more information out to you then. The timing and everything like that will be in the daytime, but as far as how many hours or what time it starts and ends, we'll get all that information as we work through organizing that. But the first day of class is July 27th. And the orientation is really important because not only will you learn about what you need to do as a student to be successful, you're going to hear from employers, you're going to hear from an alumni panel of cohort students, and you're going to also meet your faculty, which is important. And you'll definitely get to meet Eric again. So these are all great things for you to participate in so that you can start thinking about and preparing to be successful in this program. So what are the benefits of the cohort program? Well, one of the things I've said is that it finishes in 9 months. And that's really attractive to our employers. Why? Because it aligns with the recruitment season. Recruitment season starts, in August and definitely hits a high pace in September. And then it starts to, job offers and so forth start to come out around October and November. And so all of that feeds in, the program feeds into the kind of that routine and that kind of calendar of events. And so that most of our students in the cohort program, and I say most because some choose not to, but a majority of them do an internship in the 3rd term, which is the spring term, which is really tax busy season. And so the employers like to recruit our cohort students because it really aligns with their schedule and what their needs are. And it aligns with our program and how we designed it. But there are a lot of rewarding career opportunities. I've mentioned a little bit about that. Most students who come in and I ask them questions like, what do you see? What do you want to see yourself? Where do you want to see yourself? What kind of firm are you thinking about? What kind of type of tax work are you doing? A lot of them really gravitate towards the Big Four. But I say, leave your options open because when you go through the recruitment season, you're going to be exposing yourself and have an opportunity to meet people from other parts of the different segments of the tax industry. Like, for example, the governmental, nonprofit. You'll also have all various sizes and shapes of a public accounting, not only the Big Four, but you'll have regional, national, and global sized firms that are out there recruiting. And so one of the things that you have to think about when you're going through recruitment season and what you'll learn more about is that every organization has its culture. And the important thing for you is, does that culture fit your needs and what you're envisioning and how you see yourself working in that organization? We have a lot of high placement rates in the Big Four. I will say in this last group of students, it was a small group of 6 cohort students. And I think all of them got job offers in the Big Four. I think one might have went to a global firm. But they all pretty much got job offers, and not just one, but multiple job offers in the Big Four. Through this, and I've said this already, but I think it's worth mentioning because it's really important that networking doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't just happen once. It's an ongoing experience, and you will have a lot of opportunities through all of our programs and different events that we offer to network, not only with your professors who could lead you to a networking opportunity, but with through our Office of Career Planning and different events that Erica's planning, you will have networking opportunities to start gaining traction on where you might want to go for a job, what kind of part of tax you might want to look at and maybe practice. So there's, kind of the door is open for you to kind of just jump through and just kind of swim around and figure out what is really, how do you see yourself in the tax profession and what do you see yourself doing in the tax profession? Support and mentoring. I and Eric are probably one of your bigger supporters, and definitely Eric does a lot of mentoring for the cohort students, but we have also a lot of other resources from wellness, tutoring, to career planning, on and on and on, student life, things that you might not think about now, but kind of confront some challenges as you're going through the program, because it is intense, right? It's like an all-day program. You're not going to be able to work. You're probably, going to have to put some of your personal life on hold because, having time to study is going to be really, really important. So having too much of an outside life might be a challenge if you're trying to balance all of that. And if you're looking to pass, work on the CPA exam, this does satisfy the additional hours you need to to meet the eligibility or the licensing requirement of 150 hours. So that's all good. And I do encourage you all to think about doing the CPA program if that's your passion. A lot of the accounting firms are looking to have their employees on track to complete the CPA exam, and they sometimes and most often will dangle a bonus if you pass all 4 parts of the CPA exam. So that's something to think about, and you'll learn more about that as you do your networking events. Okay, so one question that we often get is, where do our students work? And so you can see this little diagram, and it's got a lot of bubbles, and it's kind of fun to look at. It is representative of a group of students, which we call a cohort, but it's not the cohort that we're talking about today. It's just a group of students that graduated at the same time, and we survey where are they working. And you can see that the larger the bubble, the more alumni we have there, right? So Deloitte is represented, Ernst & Young, PwC, KPMG. We also have a lot of IRS. We also have people at Moss Adams, so another tiered tax public accounting firm. And Moss Adams happens to be right across the street from from GGU campus as well. And then you can also see that we have public, we have Chevron, we have smaller sized firms, the bank. I don't think we have any nonprofit here that I can see. The state of California is representative. So you can see where everybody goes. A lot of them do go to public accounting, and that's probably where they start off with. But over time, they might transition into private companies or even smaller sized firms. Okay, the curriculum. What courses are you going to be taking? And these are pretty much in, well, not an exact order of how you're going to be taking. So I'm going to talk about these courses in the order that you're going to take them, and you'll see this on a more detailed schedule. TA 329 is your tax research and decision making. So you're going to learn how to research tax codes and regulations. You're going to learn how to write communication for whether it's for to the IRS or for its a communication that you put in a client's file, or for documentation purposes on decisions that that you are taking, or your group is taking, or the firm is taking on a certain subject area or on a certain problem that you're trying to solve. And then you also have advanced federal income taxation and property transactions in the first term. Those are the first 3 classes that you have in the first term. And Eric teaches, his class is TA 318. He won't be teaching it for the cohort group. He'll be teaching a different class in the cohort group. So the first 3 classes, TA 329, 318, and 330. So advanced federal taxation is looking in and diving into individual taxation codes and regulations that guide individuals and how income tax is determined. Then property transaction is what type of property are taxed. And then later on, you're going to learn in tax timing when they're taxed. So what is the character of property transactions in TA 330? And then later on, Eric teaches tax timing, which you'll have him in the 3rd term. And that is really determining when is an item or a transaction taxed. In the 2nd term, you're going to be taking more advanced classes. So the first 3 kind of lay a foundation. So they lay the foundation for more advanced classes to build on top of them. You're going to have federal income taxation of corporations and shareholders in term 2, which starts late October or early October. And then you also have federal income taxation of partners and partnerships. And you will also do the new class, which is Introduction to Data Analytics for Taxation. So those are more the advanced class. And so once you have that firm foundation built, now we're going to pile on more rigorous classes that are more complex, that get more dynamic within how you understand tax laws and how they work. And that builds out the first 2 terms. In the 3rd term, you will be taking TA 338, which is tax timing, and then TA 319, which is federal tax procedures. This class is taught on over 5 weeks. It's on a Saturday class, It runs 8 hours a day. And the reason why we do that is so that it's finished before busy tax season starts. And the interesting thing about this one class that we offer every spring is that it's taught by a high-level IRS official, an attorney for the IRS. He's high-ranking, and he comes and he flies in from Seattle, and he actually teaches this class. And everybody who takes that class walks away really, first of all, enjoying his class because he's very dynamic and engaging, but really feeling well prepared in dealing with the IRS should they have the need to, and understand how the IRS operates and how you have to operate with the IRS should you or your clients be audited, or you have a request from the IRS for more information or anything that comes up through those channels. In that same term, you're going to also take elective courses. So you'll have 2 electives or 6 units of electives, and this is where students do internships. So you can take internship as an elective course for elective course credit to finish off your 30 units. And in that third term, which is January through April, you are going to have 12 units. So term 1 is 9 units, term 2 is 9 units, that's 18 units, and then the last term, which is 15 weeks, not 9 weeks, it's 15 weeks, you're gonna have 12 units. And so students who are planning to do an internship will use the opportunity to do elective credits for internship and earn up to 6 units with internship. Or you could choose one of the many electives that will be offered during that term, like international tax, state and local tax courses, or any host of other things that we might be offering in that term. So here's a breakdown of the schedule. I kind of verbalized this already, but here's another view of how this looks. Term 1, again, starts July 27th, goes through September 25th. You'll have those 3 classes, TA 329, 318, and 330. Term 2, you'll have the 3 other classes, more advanced, additionally more rigorous, 328, 322, and then 336, which is that introduction to data analytics. And then the last term, which is the last term, which is 15 weeks, the third term, will start in January 10th, and April 24th will be the last day. And that's when you graduate. That's actually when you're done. You can celebrate that you've accomplished such a milestone in your life, and this is wonderful. You'll have 12 units in that term. Those 2 classes that are required, TA 319 and 338, and then you'll get 2 additional electives to choose. Now, there are a lot of other things that are happening other than studying. I've really packed it in about what it means to be a student. It's going to be very rigorous. There's going to be lots of studying. This is why a cohort is really unique, because you can build a bond with your classmates and create study groups, even if they're virtual. There's a lot of opportunities through Zoom and other media. Maybe you have FaceTime or Google Hangouts. They're all, now that the pandemic has hit us, I've seen that there's been so many more advancements in these other video conferencing tools that Zoom has already kind of done, but they're continuing to advance, and how you can have groups and different sessions where you can build a camaraderie amongst your classmates, do practice sessions, or you can do study sessions rather, or just meet up to talk about things that are happening. All the other events that we do around the cohort are the Practice Business Luncheon, Lunch and Learn sessions, and some other speaker series. We also do Career Fair. And now the question you're probably thinking is, well, how are you going to do that if we're virtual? So we started talking about that recently, and Eric has been noodling on it for a while. And Eric, if you want to jump in and talk about some of the thoughts about how we're going to do the Practice Business Luncheon, I welcome you to do that.
Sure. First of all, what is a Practice Business Luncheon? One of the concepts that we believe in is it's not enough just to have the tax technical knowledge to get a job. We want to make sure that you have the other soft skills that is going to serve you not only to get a job, but be successful once you're on the job. I can tell you that being in public accounting for 20 years, Rocco gave me 25 years. I think he thinks I'm older than I am, but 20 years working in public accounting, it's a people business. So your ability to network, your ability to communicate is so important. So we're planning to do some type of networking social activity, which which I think is great because you get an opportunity to hear from other people about how you did. And we think we can do it effectively virtually. I haven't talked about this with Rocco or Cindy, but your ability to get on Zoom and communicate is important. Why? Because a lot of the firms now are going to be doing at least some part of the recruiting process virtually. And so making sure how you go about leaving a positive impression is a really important thing to do.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that kind of just leads me into talking about the career fair. Because everything has been virtual since March, firms have adopted, or adapted, I think is a better word, to doing a lot of things on different platforms. And we tested, did a little mini career meetup group on using Zoom. And it really, really worked well. Students actually got jobs from those experiences, which is wonderful. And I know that our Office of Career Planning, who we partner with very strongly, is looking at a different platform. So we are going to move forward with these recruitment events. They're just going to be looking different. As well as like the Lunch and Learn sessions, the other events that we would typically hold on campus. Now we're going to be doing them remotely. And I think they'll be just as rewarding and exciting. So the Practice Business Luncheon is that networking luncheon, and although we won't necessarily do a networking luncheon like we would physically do on campus, we will do it somewhat virtual, and we have some ideas and really fun, engaging ways to do that. Eric does the Lunch and Learn sessions, and these is bringing in different professionals, as well as from the outside, as well as from our own internal organization, and who talk about various subjects from recruitment to things in the soft skills to technical skills. And then we do a lot of other events. Currently, GGU has been doing short webinars on different hot topics. And we've got either our own internal subject matter experts from faculty or administrators talking on these, as well as outside guests come in and speak on different topics. Our state and local authority, Professor Kitty Wright, who is one of our adjunct professors who's very well known in the state and local tax scene. She did a whole presentation on the ramifications of employment tax, I think it was, in the shelter-in-place time. So how do employers need to think about taxes if their employees, for example, are working for a company that's based in California, but they're in another state that has different tax laws. They're sheltered in place in another state. So the ramifications of the sheltered in place and how that tax impact was really interesting. I had like at least 100 people on the call, I think, listening in. So these are great opportunities for you to, again, to build networking opportunities, as well as subject areas, right? To learn and to improve your own personal self, or to expand the knowledge in a topic area. And these events, the luncheon and the lunch and learn sessions, career fair, these are all required for the cohort students, right? So you're going to be required to attend the lunch and learn sessions and all of these events. And you'll learn more about them as we build out the schedule for you. Support services. We have a lot of services that we really want you to participate in and take advantage of, because it's just there for you. I've talked a little bit about Office of Career Planning. So I'm not going to necessarily go in order of how they are listed here, but the Office of Career Planning works really closely with our tax students, and it's a great relationship that we have with them. They offer a lot of services, from remote advising to interview basics, also how to do a behavioral interview, right? How to prepare for an interview, how to dress for an interview. These are all topics that are important and that everybody should know. How to write a resume, a cover letter. And here's just a sample of some of the topics they cover. They have a whole library of different short little videos or presentations on a variety of different topics that you can really take away and learn something from, in order for you to feel comfortable as you go out and do some recruiting. We also have graduate advising. I will be your advisors. I will be working with you, helping you through any challenges you might come up with. but your professors are there as well. You'll have that great relationship with Eric, with Professor Mary Canning, Professor Jeff Carlin, and a lot of other professors you'll be meeting and throughout the time that you're on campus or taking classes with our program. Wellness resources, life happens, and this is a pretty demanding program. I said earlier, working is probably not going to help. You're not going to be able to work. And the reason why is because you're going to spend a lot of your time in classes, or you're going to be spending your other time, any free time, studying. So a lot of your time is going to be taken up. I know that we've had some students in the past who have tried to work, and it didn't really pan out well for them academically. They really suffered in their classes, and they didn't really do well in their job because they were trying to balance everything in addition to having family or other obligations. And so, they at some point they just had to take time off from work and just focus on their classes so that they could get through this program successfully. So working is really a tough thing to do. I know that you might need some kind of financial resources, but if you have those concerns, let's talk about it and figure out what might be the best path forward for you. Clubs. We have a tax and accounting club, and this is a great way to get engaged as well. They do a lot of great events on campus. Another way to also network, not only with your club members, but they bring in guest speakers from a variety of different professions, and they do different events on campus. And it's also great to see that you were either in a leadership position or that you participated in a club while you're in this program. And your employers are going to look for who you really are. And a part of who you are is not just what you do in class and how what kind of grades you got, but also what else do you do outside? And what are your interests? What hobbies do you have? How do you give back to the community? Those are important characteristics of your resume too. And so participating in a club or in the VITA program, which is the Voluntary Income Tax Assistance Program, and giving and dedicating your time to helping those who are less fortunate with tax filings, right? With those who have less resources and giving back to your community in that way, those really shine on your resume. If you're also looking at how am I going to pay for this, financial aid is available to you. Financial aid through the department can walk you through some of the programs that you might benefit from, as well as what other grants and scholarships that you might apply to and qualify for.
Rocco, how much is all these support services plus the slide before when you were talking about all the events?
Well, you have to have a really big wallet, Eric. You have to have a really big wallet. Indeed, they're really expensive. They're free, actually, right? They're free. So we don't charge you extra for these services. It's all wrapped up in your tuition. Thank you for making me say that, Eric, because I think that's imperative. I know that some universities, if you take advantage of certain services, they do charge you extra, and these are not. These are complimentary. They're available. Free to you. You just need to take advantage of them, right? Schedule an appointment with the Office of Career Planning or advising me or any of the other services. And there's other services that I haven't even mentioned here, but these are the bigger ones that you might think about. I'm going to turn it over to Cindy, and she's going to walk us through the next few slides, and she's going to start talking about our VA program.
Thank you, Rocco. I do want to briefly mention that Golden Gate University is a military-friendly school. We've been a proud participant in the Yellow Ribbon program since its inception. So if any of you are military and planning to use your benefits to defray the cost of your tuition, please know that it may actually cover your entire tuition. I'm going to ask that you contact me. We initiate the process through a form that you submit to Golden Gate University, as well as what you submit to the VA. And we, along with the other services we offer, we do have dedicated VA services for those of you who that may pertain to. We, I can direct you to the people and the folks who can help you navigate through the process. Okay, I'm just going to briefly, for the sake of time, I'm going to briefly address the admission requirements and the application process. In considering applying to this program, we do focus quite a bit on your academic history. We look for applicants who have a GPA, an undergraduate GPA of a 3.0 or higher. Now, does that mean if you were below a 3.0, you shouldn't apply to the program? Absolutely not. We encourage you to apply. We really do look at you as an entire person and not just your GPA. But we do ask that you also submit additional documentation for this program. So we're going to look first and foremost at your official transcript. What does it mean to be an official transcript? We ask that you have your undergraduate degree conferring institution and any institutions where you earned any postgraduate degrees to send your transcripts directly from them to us in order that it be made official. We do not require any GRE or GMAT scores, so you don't have to worry about taking an additional exam. And then once you've submitted your initial documentation, we're going to schedule a personal in-person interview with you, me, Rocco, and our program coordinator. We also ask that you submit a resume and a statement of purpose. And in that statement of purpose, we'd like you to do several things. One, explain to us your interest in tax and your career objectives, why this accelerated program works well for you and for your schedule, and how you intend to be successful in completing the degree program. If your GPA is below a 3.0, this is the place where we're going to ask you to please address the circumstances that you feel you may have contributed to that lower GPA, and again, what you plan to do to successfully complete this program. If you are an international student, we will also need a Toefl or an Ielts. There are ways to waive the Toefl or Ielts. For instance, if you attended a U.S. University and earned your degree here in the United States or in another English-speaking country at an English-speaking institution, that may make you eligible for that waiver. But those are things that you can discuss with me on an individual basis, and I'll help you through that process. Excuse me. So what is the deadline for getting your application in? If you are a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, we ask that you have all your documentation supplied to us no later than July 10th. And if you're an international student F1 or J1, that deadline is June 26th, just in case you have to take any type of placement exams and so forth. And really the most time-consuming aspect of this is getting those transcripts into us, especially in the COVID age. It may require that the institution you're requesting them from is using snail mail, USPS, and so they can't email it to us. But we do ask you to be proactive and get your documentation into us as soon as you can. So, tuition and fees. How much does the program cost? Our tuition is based on a per unit cost of $1,250 per unit. All of our classes are 3 units, so each class is $3,750. We do have 10 classes, so the total program is $37,500. And in addition, we have a $1,000 graduate professional business fee for some of the various amenities of this program. Typically, when you apply to the program, regardless of whether you're a domestic or an international student, there is an application fee of $65. But because you have joined us today at this webinar, we are going to go ahead and cover that fee for you. So you'll receive promotional waiver of that application fee via separate email when we send you a copy of this recorded webinar. How are you going to finance and pay for the tuition? We have several options for you to do that, and we're happy to help support you in figuring out which method may be the best for you. Aside from just paying for each of the classes out of pocket, these graduate programs are eligible for federal financial aid. You can fill out the FAFSA form and submit it. Our financial aid office will work with you in coordinating and dispersing the funds. As you can see from the slide, our institution code is 001205, and very simple process. If you've not gone through it before, you fill out the form and upload your 2018 tax return, and that'll then a determination will be made as to whether or not you're eligible for financial aid. There are also state aid opportunities. There's a form that you can complete to determine whether you're eligible for state aid. We also have various scholarships and grants. Several of those have eligibility requirements, so I usually refer students to that portion of our website that describes those. I do want to point out that one of the most common ones that we find is our Alumni Referral Grant. So if you've been referred to Golden Gate University by someone who's graduated from the institution, then you might be eligible for that specific grant. Other ways to fund your tuition is through private and alternative loans. And you may want to speak with your employer. Oftentimes, employers willing to reimburse students for their tuition. It helps them as well. And we do have an employer tuition assistance program where we work with you, an employer, and us in coordinating the payment of the tuition. But again, I'm happy to work with you in dealing with all of that and navigating through financial aid and connecting you to the right folks. These are the best ways to contact us. Rocco and I are very available for you to contact us. I'm a little tongue-tied. So, but you can reach us either by phone or by email. We're very, very responsive. Personally, I try to get back to you within 24 hours if you have any questions or concerns or any issues with any of the processes. So we do encourage you to reach out. And I hope I've left some time for you to ask questions.
Yeah, I think we got some time. And again, I can stay on longer if I needed. Yeah, feel free to email us in this day and age of the remote world. We're much more accessible via email. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to open it up to any of you who have questions. If Eric, you have anything you want to add, because I covered a lot of stuff very fast. I tripped over my tongue a few times trying to get through it because we did start late. So I apologize if I was unclear about anything. But Eric, if you have anything you want to add in addition, because you are actually a good supporter of this program.
I want to make sure people have a chance for their questions. So if they can go ahead and begin to use the chat to type in their questions, or in a minute we'll ask if you want to unmute. But there's a couple things I do want to make clear. And Rocco and Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong. Rocco stated earlier that we're not sure about the shelter in place, but I think we can provide everybody absolute assurance that if you want to attend remotely, you will be able to attend remotely for the entire cohort program. So that means if you're in Chicago, no matter what happens, even if we open our campus, we'll make it so you can Zoom in from externally. Or maybe you live locally and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to feel comfortable coming into the city. Don't worry, you will be able to attend the entire cohort program via web conference. Is that correct, Rocco? So
the first term, the first 9 weeks will be remote only. The next 9 weeks hasn't been determined yet, because if we are able to occupy it, then we will move back into the campus, then we will make adjustments. But students can, at that point though, students can choose whether to continue to attend remotely or attend in person, to your point.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure they knew that.
Thank you for clarifying that, yes.
Yeah.
Someone coming from Chicago, you will be able to stay in Chicago the entire time if that's what you want.
Yeah, there's just a 3-hour difference, right? 3 hours, I think, yeah. 2?
Yeah, the only caveat I would just caution about would be if you're an international, if you're F1 or J1 and need to attend classes on campus, in the event that, the shelter in place is still in effect, you should still be able to take classes remotely.
Yes.
If that's no longer in effect, then we'll have you back on campus.
Great. Eric, did you have something else?
Yeah, I do, but I want to get to their questions, and I'll to the extent we get a lull in questions, there's a couple other things I wanted to say, but let's get to their questions.
So the question comes about salaries. So in the Bay Area, what could one expect upon graduating from the program? So Eric will have some feedback on that, I'm sure. We don't collect salary data, to be very honest. And so the only data that I personally hear, is if a student who gets a job offer tells me and shares that with me. And again, it depends on a variety of things. Where are you working? Like which type of firm? Is it a Big Four versus a smaller firm? Is it private versus, a nonprofit or whatever? So there's a lot of factors that go into the variable. Of course, location. San Francisco might pay a little bit higher than if you were to work in the East Bay, perhaps. So again, geography, it plays a role in that. But I know that some students were in the mid 60s to high 70s. The lowest end was in the mid 60s and somewhere in the 70s. But there's no guarantee, because that's just anecdotal from what I hear.
And my advice is don't just look at starting salary, but look at the growth in salary.
Yes.
So look at what do people make if they start in public accounting after 4 or 5 years. In other words, once they make tax manager, because your salary, as I tell everybody, you're underpaid for what you provide a firm in the first 2 or 3 years, but it makes up for it as you gain experience.
Yeah, I think that's important. You can go online and find data that really kind of probably better answers your question. Again, we don't collect that data, so it's only anecdotal from whatever I hear from students. And again, there's a lot of variables, but I think Eric makes a really strong point, because it goes back to what I talked about with organizational culture. And, you got to accept a job that you feel like you can be there for a while for growth and development opportunities. And salary isn't always the one consideration for accepting a job. There's other factors you should think about, like benefits. What do they allow you to work remotely a couple of days a week or all the time? All those things that you might find interesting. I think there was another.
Let's respond to Sarah. Cindy, they will get a copy of the slides after the presentation, correct?
Yes, so it'll take about 24 hours, and we will forward everything to you along with that waiver code.
Oh, the other part of the question was, what is the hiring rate of graduates from the program? Again, we don't track who gets hired unless they disclose it to us. We do some surveys, but that doesn't include the whole population of students. A lot of students already come in, not to the necessarily the cohort. Some do, though. There's been a few who've already had positions coming into the cohort, or have positions in from their firms, and their firms allowed them to take the time off to do the program. So it really depends. In the cohort, most of the students are not already employed. And I would say that all of them in the last 3 to 4 cohorts that I can think of off the top of my head have all found jobs. If they've completed the program and they went out and recruited, they've gotten job offers. Again, that's a small niche of a student population, because that's not the entire tax population or tax students, population of tax students. And as I said earlier, many of them already are working as they're going through the program in the evening program, the non-cohort. How much tuition does financial aid typically cover? It really depends on a lot of factors, your financial standing, your economic standing. So that there's no way we could answer that. You would really have to talk to the Office of Financial Planning, financial aid, to determine what you would qualify and how much you could get through financial aid or other sources. None of us work for financial aid, so I wouldn't even know how much you would get.
I'll just say, so in order to qualify for financial aid, you have to take a minimum of 4 credits. So it will cover it if you're eligible. And like I mentioned earlier, the financial aid office will package that for you, and then you determine, based on your eligibility, you determine which of those loans you may or may not want to accept.
Yeah, and so this is considered a full-time program for people who are looking for benefits and they require full-time programs such as the VA. This does qualify for that, even though the terms are not necessarily 15 weeks. It still qualifies.
So I want to further comment about Carl's question about hiring. The thing I think that you want to know is there's no shortage of firms that are interested in our graduates. So, and you'll have opportunities to network with them. I found students, as long as they're in good academic standing, because they do care about GPA, so you need to do well in the classes here at Golden Gate University. But as Rocco said, his little acronym spells out the word career. We try to prepare you beyond just the technical material, but to do well in the recruiting process with our different lunch and learns and things. So you're practicing your networking skills, you're practicing your interview skills and your resume and writing skills. And what I think is unique about the Cohort program, Cohort means together. So your group will be the same group taking all these classes together. And that causes a real amazing cohesion and togetherness that I've taught in the Cohort program and just our general classes outside the Cohort program. It's completely different. The discussion, the atmosphere is better in the Cohort class because everybody is so familiar. It's like taking classes with all of your friends by the time you're halfway through the program.
Yep. That's very important. There's a kind of not relaxed, but it's a familiarity with each other. So you're more apt to participate in conversations than if you were in kind of just taking different classes each term and having to re-meet people or meet people for the first time. So we're after the hour, it's like almost 5 minutes after the hour. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to stay on. Eric, if you're able to, you're welcome to. If you have to jump off, that's fine too. Cindy as well.
So Rocco, you were in the meeting with the dean earlier about that professional fee. Is that something we can comment about, that $1,000?
Not at the moment.
Okay, then never mind.
Sorry. So will you be offering a similar orientation for those who cannot commit to the Cohort Expedited program due to working full time? So we do an orientation. It will look a little bit different than the one I described. And actually, let's be honest. What we've done before for the Cohort orientation is going to look totally different this time around because we're working in a different venue, right? We're working in a reality of remote, remoteness, if you can say it that way. So we're just kind of planning out how it's going to look. We do a pretty well thought out orientation for the evening students who are taking classes. It just looks differently. There's a lot of information though, and there's breakout sessions. Yeah, it just looks different.
And I'm happy. Oh, I was going to say, I can send, if you would like to attend the separate webinar that we do for our non-cohort program, I'll send you the registration link for that.
Yeah. So Eric and I and a few others really kind of control the orientation for the cohort. The Office of Student Affairs does the general orientation for all the other students. So it looks a little bit different. But I would just add that if you're not in the cohort program, all of these events that we talked about, you should participate in, like the lunch and learn events. If you have the noon hour free, These are great sessions to join in on. It's an hour out of your time. If you're working from home, it's easy. If you're working from an office, it might still be easy. But if you can't, they will be recorded and you'll have access to see the recordings.
And all the support services you talked about are applicable,
Yes.
whether you're an evening student or cohort.
Sorry if you hear background noise, I have loud kids. Let's see. Okay, that'd be great. Okay, yeah. Are there any last minute questions before we part ways here? I really hope that you found this helpful in understanding how the program works and whether this is a good fit for you. But we definitely would be able to answer other questions that might come up afterwards. We are going to give you an opportunity, or we'll give you a link to watch the video, as well as you know, you'll have our contact information. Well, it doesn't look like there are any more questions coming through. So if you, we'll just go ahead and end it here now. Eric, thank you so much for joining. I twisted your arm at the last minute to join us, and I really appreciate it. It was wonderful having you on, and I think having the students meet you, because you will be very engaged in the cohort program, so they'll see you quite often. And they've actually, yeah, and as we, yeah, you just are very active. I guess that's all I need to say.
Well, thanks. I wish everyone on the call well on whatever that they decide. Just know that if you decide to do the cohort program, it is a lot of work. It's intensive. That's why we think you should be focused 100% and not have any lot of big external responsibilities. However, what you put into it, you really get a lot out of it. You learn an amazing amount. Cohorts, alumni who are cohorts come to me all the time saying it's amazing how much I learned in the program and how much I use what I learned on the job in the real world. And they show me little sheets of paper. Remember that you showed me in class? I use it all the time. So, so I wish you the best on your journey.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.